I'm in a current slump, ADHD paralysis, whatever the case is, burnout. This winter break is literally about to be over, and I have not done really a single thing. And, I haven't done any homework assignments, which isn't, abnormal. I typically don't really do anything school-related during winter break. But it's I literally haven't done anything else either. Anything creative, really. I posted one YouTube video, but it was just a vlog. It wasn't anything really, crazy. I miss doing creative things, and I really want to get back to doing it. I want to do the second part of the alien videos, and I want to do a video about ADHD and stuff like that. So those are two projects that I'm kind of thinking about, but I don't know, I haven't been able to put any effort into doing it, and I'll literally be up at night. It's currently 1:54 a.m. I'll be up all night, and I'll be fidgety and restless because I want to go do something, but I don't have the motivation to do it. I'm not being productive, but I want to be. So thankfully, now that I'm prescribed medication, I hope that changes. But with medication is an entire process of trial and error, and I wish I wouldn't have to do that. I wish I would just have the perfect dose, perfect medication prescribed to me for it to help me, and side effects aren't as bad. That's what I really hope for. But realistically, I'm starting off with a very low dose of Vyvanse. I don't know. I literally always forget the name, but I think it's Vyvanse. I'm starting with 10 milligrams, which is the lowest dose you could get of Vyvanse, and then I guess if that doesn't work, I'll be working my way up, or if Vyvanse in general doesn't work, I'll have to be doing something else, be trying some other medication. But I don't know, I really hope it helps me, because I really need to get out of this paralysis. I haven't been doing anything, and literally this entire school year, I feel I haven't done anything. I was at my most creative peak recently this summer. That was my best moment. I think because there's no expectation during summer. You're just kind of doing whatever. You don't have to be doing anything for school. I think it's when it's the best, because I'm able to do whatever I want. There's no time frame to when I have to do assignments or even post videos. But now I'm in school. I'm supposed to be doing schoolwork, but I do want to be doing creative things. But when I do those creative things, or when I think of doing those creative things, I don't do them, because in my head I'm there are more important things I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be doing homework. I'm supposed to be doing all these late assignments that I have yet to do, that are a big part of my grade, and I don't do them. But the problem is that it just I can't bring myself to do them, and it's honestly been really hard this year specifically. I mean, it was really bad also towards the end of junior year. After the first half of junior year was really when it was the worst. Starting February, which was when I developed generalized anxiety disorder, and when my symptoms of ADHD really started showing through the most. not to say that I haven't had ADHD all my life, but like specifically now towards the end of high school, I think that in my head, like the fact that it's the end of high school, things like start clicking in my head and I'm like, damn, I really don't want to be doing shit. And my brain just kind of puts me in this position where like I don't have the motivation to do anything, but I have to do things. There's a ton of things I have to do. Not only do I have the responsibility of school, but I also have a ton of extracurriculars that I'm like in control of. Like I'm the president of the psychology club, and just in general, other clubs and other things I have to do. I'm literally a class officer and I have to do a bunch of things for that, and that also takes a lot of mental capacity, unfortunately. And thankfully, like after getting my diagnosis and also now just recently getting prescribed medication, I look at people's stories and like I look at people who have ADHD and they talk about it, and like it's good to realize that because as cliche as it is, like I know it's really corny, but like people with ADHD aren't lazy. Like the truth is, it's literally like a disability. Like we are unable to do certain things that neurotypical people can do, at least very easily, or with more ease. But I was thinking about it because then I started thinking, okay, maybe I am just lazy because like I haven't been doing anything this entire school year, and I just feel lazy because I feel like I haven't done anything, and I don't know, I just feel lazy. And typically I've never had that thought process. I've always thought, yeah, like I have ADHD, like that's just what it is, like that's my life. But I think since it's been so consecutively, like there's nothing being done, I feel like, well, I started to feel like I really am lazy. But then I started to realize that's literally what people with ADHD are always talking about, how you're not lazy and how being called lazy is a very key component to like having ADHD in the society, because ADHD is never taken as seriously as other mental illnesses or other like physical disabilities. And on one side, like I understand, because physical disabilities are easier to see, obviously, because they're physical, and you could like see specifically how it's affecting people. And other mental illnesses like depression, not to say that they're also not taken as seriously, because you know there are still people who don't believe in that type of stuff, but with depression and self-harm, you start seeing those things kick in quicker, and like people want to prevent those things the most because it has the biggest impact. You know, someone with depression that's likely to harm themselves in any way, like that's very worrying, and that's more attention is drawn to that, I guess. Whereas ADHD, you typically don't have anything that's like an immediate point of attention, which is, I guess, like the big reason as to why that's the case with all of this. But yeah, I don't know, it's not taken as seriously, but it really is debilitating, at least for some people. Oh, another point that I was going to say is that since ADHD is something that doesn't affect everyone the same, there are even people with ADHD that will go and like tell other people with ADHD that they're being lazy, that they're not doing anything. But in all honesty, everyone's mental illnesses are different, and they will affect them in different ways. Someone with depression might want to harm themselves, but another person with depression might just have very little motivation to do anything with their lives. Vice versa, either or, and or whatever the fuck, because the symptoms and the characteristics of a mental illness are not exclusive, or necessary, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go to ADHD because that's obviously what I have. Some people with ADHD might have hyperfixations, and hyperfixations are low-key kind of crazy because, you know, you're focused on this one thing. It might be like a show, it might be a franchise, might be a hobby, and you're very focused on this, and kind of everything else does not release as much dopamine for you. So it really hones in on what you're focused on. So, for example, right now my current hyperfixation is music and CDs, collecting CDs. If I see a CD, I could like, this is not scientific, so don't like quote me on this, but I could like feel the dopamine because it's like, I'm like attracted to those CDs. Like, okay, that sounded weird, but I meant like I want to go to those CDs. If I see a CD, I want to go to it. I want to see what it is. Anything that's about CDs interests me. Anything about music, it's interesting me currently. But earlier this school year, I had a hyperfixation on the Ninja Turtles, on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Anytime I saw their green little faces and their green little bodies or anything about Ninja Turtles, my eyes immediately like darted to it, and I like felt like almost like a rush, but like not physically, but not like a physical rush, but like you could tell it was like a rush. And like that's how powerful hyperfixations are. But again, some people don't have hyperfixations. Some people with ADHD don't have hyperfixations. They don't experience that. And it's very interesting because to me, that is literally one of the biggest components of having ADHD. Those hyperfixations are very much what define me as a person. Because you look at me, you look around my room, and I have pieces of each of my hyperfixations. You could tell when there was a phase. You look at the corner of my room, I have a little greenhouse cabinet filled with plants from my plant hyperfixation that I had in like 2020. I was obsessed with plants. I was like literally, the plants were the only thing I was watching. I wanted the greenhouse cabinet because my friend had shown it to me, and I did it. And now I have so little motivation to water these plants that they're always on the verge of dying. And the only reason why they don't is because I feel really bad that they're dying, so I end up watering them. Or I'll literally have to tell my mom, can you please water them or help me water them so I'm able to actually like do it without feeling like discouraged to water them. Because it's like a task, but it's a tedious task in my opinion, because since I don't have the hyperfixation anymore, they're literally just like it's like an extra chore to me now. But I mean, anything, you look around my room, I have things of Ninja Turtles, I have things of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which was also a recent hyperfixation. I buy things from my hyperfixations. Any hyperfixation that I get has to have something that I could buy, if that makes sense. Because, there are some hyperfixations that you might not necessarily have anything to buy from, but those are the hyperfixations that don't ever kick in as hard, if that makes sense. So with music, I'm able to collect CDs, and that's something that I could collect and like build and see and physically see and hold and listen to if I put it in a CD player. When it comes to Ninja Turtles, I bought little Ninja Turtle characters. I bought a Ninja Turtle poster. Anything that I could buy and have in my hand or at least see in my room is like the biggest thing for me when it comes to hyperfixations. Another example is the plants. Buying those plants. When it comes to a hyperfixation that there isn't as much things to consume, it's the ones that die the quickest. Avatar: The Last Airbender, maybe that's not the best example, but it was one of my quickest, hyperfixations to end. And I think partly it's because there just wasn't as much to consume, because there's the main show, and then there's also Legends of Korra, which is related to, but not like specifically, not completely tied to it, which is why I didn't hate Legends of Korra. Like, I actually enjoyed watching it, but it got to a point where I was just kind of like not as interested anymore. And that's after I bought a little action figure of one of the characters, because, like I said, I always need to buy something. I need to buy something and have something physically of the thing, of my current hyperfixation. And since it was Avatar: The Last Airbender, I bought an action figure from the show. And, I don't know. I just think it's interesting that I literally got, sidetracked. Like, that goes to show really, really what this is about. But, Yeah, I know someone who has ADHD and doesn't experience hyperfixations. I know some people who experience hyperfixations, but not as strong as I do. Like I said, hyperfixations are one of the key components of me having ADHD. Um, Fidgeting is obviously a very known trait for ADHD, and I do fidget a lot, but I also feel like I don't fidget as much as some other people with ADHD. Like, you really hone into some of those people, and they're way more hyperactive. And to be fair, I was diagnosed with inattentive type of of ADHD, not hyperactive or combination. But that's not to say, I'm not like fidgeting and stuff like that, but I'm definitely not to the extent that some people are with ADHD, where they're super hyper, like they have to stand up and stuff like that. And honestly, I've come to realize, especially this year, that I would honestly just mask a lot of my traits, of my ADHD traits. And like, I feel like you only start to pick up on those things once you're already diagnosed with ADHD, and you kind of don't care anymore about people seeing them or about society's expectations on you. Because it's like, okay, I'm diagnosed with ADHD, like, I have a reason to be acting like this. And that's not to say that I'm like gonna purposely act like crazy and hyper and stuff like that because I have ADHD. Like, that's definitely not what I'm doing. Unfortunately, though, it might seem like that to people. And also, that's one of the main things I want to talk about: the fact that people are with ADHD are so misunderstood by people who don't have ADHD that it's really annoying. But anyways, going back to what I was talking about what was I talking about? About people with ADHD, conversations. Fuck, what was I saying? I was talking about. Damn. Okay, you see, but okay, wait. The way it came back to me once I like realized what was happening, but I was talking about how like, masking and stuff like that. So right there, what just happened, where I got distracted, to someone who sees this, who might not have ADHD, they might think that I did that on purpose, because it seems very animated. It seems very typical ADHD, where you see on like online, when you see, portrayed in the media, like, oh, distracted like a squirrel or whatever. And even though obviously ADHD is not like that, where like you see a squirrel and you're immediately distracted, and it's like you're, but for the but it kind of is like there are some things that are very similar to that, and that kind of happens to me a lot. Specifically happens to me in conversation, when I start thinking ahead, and then I switch conversation, and then I forget what I originally was talking about. But anyways, okay, masking was what I was talking about. So yeah, I feel like I masked a lot of my symptoms, and now that they come out, I start noticing them more, and other people start noticing them more. And also, I notice them more because other people are noticing them, and they tell me. For example, I recently realized that I stand up a lot during lunch at my school. Like, everybody will be sitting down at the little round table, and sometimes I'll just stand up instead of sitting down. And I never really processed that, and I also feel like I never used to really do that up until more recently. But I think because I started picking up on that, I just think I don't, I guess in a way, like, I don't care anymore what people think, because, like, who cares if I stand up and start walking around? And one thing that I do is I'll stand up and I'll start, like, not pacing, what's the word, like almost like leaning, I guess, back and forth. And I don't know, it's like I just do it. I don't know if it's like for self-soothing or whatever, but I do that. And my parents will always call me out on it. They'll be like, stop like moving back and forth, like you look weird, like you look strange. To some people, they're gonna think you're crazy. And it's like, okay, babes, ew, I've never said that before. I'm never gonna say that ever again in my life. Ignore that. But it's like, okay, I am crazy because I literally freaking have ADHD, and that's just how I am. I'm not forcing myself to do that. I'm not intentionally moving back and forth. I do realize how weird that may look to someone else, but I fucking have ADHD. But another thing is that being called out of those things, like being told, oh, like, you're doing this thing, like, that's kind of weird or whatever, that's not normal, it is, like, one of those things that makes me realize that I do, in fact, have ADHD. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, it makes me not accept, but I don't know, it makes me, like, realize that it's true that I do have fucking ADHD, and, like, it's not something I'm making up or something that, like, I'm pushing myself to be a certain thing. And I think that's another thing with ADHD, that, yeah, I feel like once you start finding out about ADHD and once you get diagnosed with ADHD, this kind of circles back to the thing about masking, you start to pick up on those symptoms more because, you know, you were just diagnosed with it. You start, like, realizing things, you start doing more research, you start seeing yourself in other people with ADHD, and that makes you think, okay, like, I'm faking it. Like, I'm making myself seem more like what these people with ADHD are like. But in reality, you're just literally taking off the mask. You know how Dream said, that's what the mask is. That's what the point of the mask is. That. Pretty sure he was talking about ADHD because he has ADHD. But I'm not promoting Dream, by the way, but you know what I'm saying. But he wasn't wrong with that. He wasn't wrong with the mask, because the mask is definitely a real thing that happens with people with ADHD and autism. But obviously, like, I'm not diagnosed with autism, so I'm not really able to speak on that. But fun fact, I mean, ADHD and autism have a lot of similarities. I mean, they're both neurodivergency. I don't know if that's a word, but so there are some similarities and some differences. Well, a lot of differences and some similarities. But I don't know, like, being neurodivergent is both great and also, like, kind of sucky, because at least with ADHD neurodivergency, like, I like, there's some things that I hate about being neurodivergent and about having ADHD, because why do I have to have these bouts of, like, paralysis where I just don't do anything and I can't focus on what I do? And, like, I suck at math and I suck at biology and I suck at so many certain things because I'm not able to focus on them because I have no interest in them. The thing that people without ADHD kind of have a hard time understanding is that the reason why I don't concentrate isn't because I don't necessarily want to, but it's because if a topic doesn't interest me, I won't release that dopamine that I get when I finish an assignment about that, if that makes sense. I keep saying if that makes sense. Please disregard. But, okay, frick, I literally lost track of what I was saying. Okay, oh no, I was talking about, like, school subjects or whatever. So I suck at math, and I've been bad at math for a long time now. And I remember in 7th grade, it was, well, 6th grade was when my failure of math was, like, on the come up. But then 7th grade, I did Algebra 1. And in that class, I literally would just remember, like, disconnecting myself. Again, not necessarily on purpose, but I just wasn't finding anything rewarding of that topic. And unfortunately, that has literally come to bite me in the ass today. And it has continued to bite me in the ass because algebra is literally, like, the most basic math that you need to know for college and just in high school in general. And I fucking don't know it. And, like, there's a lot of things I don't know how to do. I'm literally taking one of the most basic math classes this year, which is math for college readiness or whatever, which is literally just Algebra 1. And it's so easy, I guess. It's so basic. And, like, I feel like I should get it immediately. But there are a lot of times when I don't get it immediately. And then I see the people around me and they're like, oh my God, this is so easy. And it's like, I could tell it's easy, but my brain can't get me to do it, if that makes sense. There, I said it again. But I don't know, that really is one of my biggest struggles with ADHD, not being able to concentrate on math. Reading, honestly, I like reading. I like the subject reading, English or whatever. I like writing. I'm not a bad writer. I think I'm a pretty good writer. And I like doing it. And also, I like being creative and I like being able to imagine different things. Math is so cookie cutter to me that it's just like, there's no joy coming from math. That's why at least I could appreciate science, because science is like, I don't know, I feel like you need to have a more creative way of thinking for some certain things in science. But then again, the parts of science I struggle with the most are the ones that have to do with like math. Like chemistry, I fucking sucked ass at chemistry. Because not only was there a lot to like remember and to know in chemistry, but there was also moments where you had to fucking know math. And guess what? I fucking suck at math. So what? So how am I supposed to succeed in a subject that stems from another subject that I'm not good at? But anyway, guys, I digress. I think I'm gonna stop talking now because I've been talking for a while now, and I have been going on little tangents, but I think it's an important thing to talk about because, you know, if you know someone with ADHD, ask them questions, get to know how it works for them. Again, ADHD is not the same for everyone. So although you should get a general kind of education on ADHD and how it works, you should also ask people who you know with ADHD individually, ask them about their experiences and how ADHD changes them from better or for worse, and how it affects their life. Because I feel like I feel like a lot of people without ADHD come from a point of misunderstanding, and sometimes that might be on purpose, sometimes that might not be on purpose, but they're just not willing to accept the fact that it is debilitating to some people and that it is a disability, unfortunately. I believe it's classified as a developmental disability, not a learning disability. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think autism oh my god, I'm like going crazy. But I think autism is considered both. I think it's both considered a developmental and a learning disorder. In my opinion, I don't know how they classify this, how they choose what a disorder entails, but I feel like ADHD should in fact be considered a learning disability. I'm assuming learning disability means, you know, like an ability to learn or having difficulty to learn certain things. And if that is the case, if that is the definition of what a learning disability is, ADHD should definitely be considered a learning disability, because I suck at math, and that's how I'm going to end this, because I just suck at math, and that's me being mentally disabled from doing math. The end.